that they're changing my voice. So I just got back. It took me maybe, we'll say 10 to 15 minutes, so I'm not too specific, to get to where I live from Detroit, from that area I was at. And I know there's a lot of background noise. Maybe there was some clicking on the microphone. Keep in mind, this microphone's new, right? I just got it maybe a week ago, and by the second day it was clicking because they do something funny with the fumes, right? And it's also in the cold air, you know, and it goes into my lungs like food does, my throat, and it kind of changes the sound of my voice. So they're using some kind of technology there. And it's safe to say everyone believes me by now. I mean, no one's dumb enough to think I'm wrong. That's one of the differences between me and the governing class and the people who agree with them. Okay, those of the among the governing class who think that this is smart, but all of them are brought down by complicity. Going back to Revelation 18 and ironically Proverbs 18:9. Right, one who slackens his work is brother to one who destroys, and it says, "Come out of her, my people; she will not share in her sins." We look at Proverbs 2, which I've been writing over again by hand. I wrote down Proverbs 1. I'm going to write down Proverbs 2 and 3. Even though they're kind of messing my brain, I still kind of let these things really come into my mind while I screen out all the garbage they're trying to put in my mind and all the things they're trying to get me to do, all the sexual harassment. There's a way to kind of keep your soul pure in spite of all the sexual harassment. That's part of what Proverbs 2 is about, right? It says wisdom will save you from the adulterous woman, right? Folly is an unruly woman, right? She is simple and knows nothing. Okay, Proverbs 9. And so when we look at the opposite of folly, right? Wisdom, right? See Proverbs 2, 2 through 5, what have you. Proverbs 3, Proverbs 4, Proverbs 5. It talks about wisdom, just like Proverbs 1. And Proverbs to understand the other books of the Bible. So what keeps you from hell? Wisdom, insight, understanding the monotheistic martial art principles in their true form. I almost forgot. The picture on the screen is the neighborhood I was at. I had the presence of mind to kind of take some footage, and I decided to take a screenshot of that and put it on the screen because, I didn't really do a good job with the two videos I made in the Detroit area. I was right outside Detroit on 8 Mile, and I didn't know that because I'm not that familiar with Detroit. And then I went a little further down 8 Mile, and I got into the city limits, and that whole area is kind of questionable, but it's not the most gang-related area. And if you look at the videos on the internet about the gang areas, okay, if you're to drive through Detroit, a lot of them aren't so obvious, right? They look like middle-class areas, right? If you drive through there at the right time, you might see certain cars, certain this, but they're very dangerous areas. Again, there's 220 homicides, a year on the low end, because that's like I forgot, it was like a 20% decrease from the year before. So the year before you had 250 or something like this, right? And so there's more dangerous parts, but I'm not afraid of these parts. I've been to Compton and Oakland, and I've been to bad parts of San Francisco, and I've been in the streets of California as somebody who at the time is seen as a thug, gang member, what have you. And so I'm not afraid of any of this stuff, like Chicago's like 4 hours away or something. If the car wouldn't break down, if it was in my best interest, if I didn't have a certain condition, I'd go over there and make videos, and it is what it is. But you got to realize when you're targeted, it's different. Okay, it's different when you're targeted. In some ways it's more dangerous, in some ways it might even be less dangerous, but they're always kind of doing things to you, and you don't know what's going to go down and how it's going to complicate the situation. So I wanted to kind of really explain my economic plan for Michigan, right? It's like an 8-point plan where the 8th point is restructuring the school system for those who want to learn that way. And the other points have to do with building rehabs, housing for the homeless, okay, affordable housing, farm program, more police. And you should see it. I made a playlist for it. Okay, it has to do with job programs, just a small amount of money for job programs to see what happens, see if we can get the crime rate down by making it so that people in high risk areas, areas of high crime areas can kind of go to a temporary job real quick for an hour or two, half an hour, and get some money so they don't have to rob anybody. And they can kind of, manage their drug habit that way. Okay. And so there's that program. There's also the startup program. I might be missing one thing here. I'm going off the top of the head. I'm still kind of thrown off from being fumed in Detroit. For whatever reason, when I go to Detroit, they fume me more. Just like when I went to Oakland, those times during those 4 trips, I went to Oakland like maybe 5 times or something. I don't remember, but they fume me heavily on the way there, and they did stuff when I was there. So, some people might think, hey, you're better off in a black city trying to talk to people. But that's not quite the case here. While I was there, I saw some suspicious people, but again, I'm not somebody who's scared, right? I don't scare easy. I saw some regular people, and everyone kind of didn't seem like they wanted to be bothered. I saw a lady with her daughter, and she seemed like she didn't want to be bothered. So it's not that simple. Plus, they're fuming me more, and so on and so forth, because that's probably their orders from the State Department, from Donald Trump, from whoever, right? The governing class, the Freemasons, their orders, the CIA director, the FBI director, what have you, their orders are probably to put a special emphasis on preventing me from talking to black people in a black city based on who they think would be more receptive to my message, right? Like the COINTELPRO, right? Preventing the rise of a black messiah. So here I am in the Detroit area, and because of years and years of psyops and all this stuff, and how people are bred to think, and people being broken, really. A lot of people don't want to admit they're broken. Some people, they lift weights, they feel tough, and they don't want to admit that they're broken. But because of these things, it's very difficult to tell people, hey, by the way, I'm Christ. And for those of you who don't believe me, Marshall is marital scrambled, right? When's the last time you heard someone say that? And I, Christ, am the bridegroom. Psalm 19, the bridegroom is the champion, the top martial arts. So already I'm speaking the actual language of the hidden truth in the Bible where other people aren't. That by itself doesn't prove it, but it should get their attention. But I'm not even able to kind of do that. Because people a lot of them are gang stalkers. They're told not to respond, not to answer, not to talk to me. So when you look at the situation, we can ascertain that I'm here to do God's work, to see how people respond, to give them that one last long shot chance to, as individuals, rally and obey God through me. Earlier in life, like 20 years ago or whatever, if people had responded correctly as grown folks, as people who are mature, who worship God and serve God, there would have still been chance for their offspring in the future. And they really, really let them down. And it stresses me to some degree every day, but I'm a grown man, right? When I think about how these people won't even mitigate for their offspring after they let their offspring down. And that's how far gone your governing class are. They're too concerned with white, Jewish, and LGBT supremacy games, Greco-Roman mythology games, cult games, social club games. They're too concerned with being some kind of petty, rich idiot to kind of make a sound call for society. And you see it in the social policy, you see it in the economic system, you see it in the political groups, you see the fruit of their failure everywhere.